Sir from 17 once again. This is my Arkham Knight, Catwoman's Revenge, no damage walkthrough. This is the only Arkham episode I did not enjoy. Of the ones we've played so far, I don't know how many more there will be, but as long as none of them are like this one, I will have no issue. This first encounter involves stealing 3 cards off of these guys for a computer. The people who, in detective mode, have a pulsing kind of light on them are the people that you need. They are going to give you access to the computer. If anybody sees you here, it's instant fail. You cannot set off an alarm on this particular moment. The good news is, the pattern that I'm showing you here will be the same every time you restart. The people will walk in a very comparable position. Sometimes it will deviate a little bit left or right, but for the most it will probably be in and around what you're watching right now, so you can just imitate this and have good success. The second encounter here, you have to take down like 16 people in these 2 rooms, and it is 100% luck, I believe. The reason I say this is, in this game, the only way to predict people is when they don't know where you are. So right now, the patterns that these people are walking is all set. When they have an idea where you are, it's random. They go where they want, they go where they feel, and it's very difficult to control. And when you take somebody down, if somebody sees the body, they go on alert. And when they're on alert, it's all in the air, and it goes nuts. By the way, right now, always go up onto the roof here. If you try and go through the one on the floor, the guy on the left will see you. He saw me and ruined my run. But once you've hit this, it's going to trigger the sequence where we have to get rid of the people in the rooms. So this is probably the biggest Predator sequence I think I've played in the game, because it's just massive. And because Catwoman doesn't have the same kind of gadgets that Batman does, you're limited in a lot of the things you can do here. For instance, Batman's Batclaw was fantastic for pulling people over balconies. He also had moves that would literally incapacitate people, like the Sonic Batarang and things of that nature. Catwoman really doesn't have it, so what you're going to see me do here is you're going to see me take them down individually, using silent takedowns, and kind of work from there. And I'm going to be rather defensive, rather patient, because I'm trying to do this no damage, and if anybody sees me, I'm going to get shot. So, you've got to choose when to be bold and know when to hang back. The good news is, the ceiling, going onto the ceiling is incredibly powerful. It enables you to do some really questionable stuff. There's a sequence later on in this where I take somebody down and a guy goes, "There she is," and then he doesn't shoot at me. And I'm just really confused, and I let it fly because I didn't take damage, and it ended up working. But you want to look for the straggler who's moving away from the group, and you want to be aware that the people have this nasty tendency of moving towards you when you take people down. It's almost kind of like omniscient AI at times. If you ever commit to choking somebody, someone always kind of wants to come near you. It's that bullshit that games have that sometimes is probably us, overthinking it, but sometimes is literally the game cheating. And the good news is, this is one of those moments where once you do it a few times, you really get the feel for how you should approach it. For instance, there's 3 people there moving in a line. If you think you can take them out in a train, feel free to do it. But for every other situation, you should be waiting for them to separate. Because if you don't, you're going to get yourself in a big spot of bother. And it'll make it longer than it needs to be. And this right now is the longest part of the DLC. Because this one is just like the other ones. It is very short for what it is. But you might be wondering, well, Chris, why do you think this is the worst? And my answer to that is very simple. There is a fight coming up at the end of this. There is not any fun. And I can appreciate that everybody likes something different. I can appreciate what they were trying to do with the particular encounter. I just don't think they did it very well. Arkham Knight, and the Arkham games in general, is a very animation-heavy series. It always has been. You have very little control over your character at all times, because you cannot dictate what they will do. The only thing you can do is guide them towards where you want them to go, and you can hope that they pick the right person. Everything else is luck. If they picked the right person, you got lucky. If they didn't, you got screwed. If you were holding up and to the right, and there's 2 people there, and they attacked the one you didn't want, it's not your fault. If you were pointing towards the person you wanted and it attacked somebody else, it's the way the game works. And it's something that you've learnt to use, something that you've learnt to put up with, and something you don't even notice anymore, because it's the game, it's the combat, it's how it works. When you attack somebody, the characters do what they want. They can do super short punches, they can do triple backflip kicks, they can do whatever they want. And they generally have 2 to 3 different animations for every circumstance. You counter somebody, does one thing. Counter somebody again, does a different thing. And all of it is varying. One counter will be Catwoman doesn't move and she just kicks like vertical and kicks somebody behind her. Another time, she'll do like a triple backflip. She'll move 2 fucking meters and then she'll kick him in the ass. And you're like, well, that's cool, isn't it? There's more animations, it's more interesting to watch, it's more fun to do. Well, definitely. But not when the floor is electrified. And here's the difference, here's the trouble. The fight coming up is a massive gauntlet of enemies, which is bad enough. And then there's these 2 lasers that are moving around the room that go where they want, and if you touch them you take big damage. And then as the fight goes longer, the floor gradually gets more electrified and smaller and smaller and smaller until you literally have a square to move in. At that point, anything you do is so animation heavy you will put yourself into danger and take damage. Anything you do. You try and attack somebody, Catwoman's going to move forward, if she does it, you're going to be in damage. You do a counter and you get the double backflip one, you're taking damage. You do a takedown, you're taking damage during the animation. That's right. During the animation of you doing stuff to people, your life will be drained because you stood on a tablet that's electrified. So you can't do those, or you can, but you better hope you don't get the one that does that. If you get the quick one where she just, snaps her neck or something, you got lucky. If you get the one where she rolls on the leg and she moves him 10 feet that way and you're in the fucking electricity and you're dying, you got unlucky. And you can't control it. And that's my issue, guys. There's no precision in this combat. It's the illusion of precision. The only thing you control is the direction and the timing. That's it. Everything else is left to the game. And when you leave it to the game, things get frustrating. This game has always been frustrating. Because sometimes you don't get what you want, sometimes you do. And there are times where if you did the quick punch, you would have hit the guy, but instead you did the spinning reverse kick and you got punched because he did the quick punch. And they'll always do the quick punch because the computer doesn't fuck about. But we do, because we're fancy superheroes. And this is something all the games have had, guys. And until they let you customize your moves for every situation, like God Hand, it'll always be the same. If they let you pick what move is done in the chain of the combos, and what move is done in the counters, what move is done in the takedowns, and the priority list for them, you will never have control. And up to this stage, it's never been an issue, outside of high-level players wanting a perfect run. Never been an issue, because it's fun, it's fancy, it's enjoyable to watch, and you don't have to be good at it to look like you're good at it. And that's great. But when you electrify the floor, and you don't have any upgrades for life, or any way to heal, because this is all a very specific difficulty, this is not on hard or easy or anything, there's one difficulty. And this one difficulty is harder than the game on hard, on New Game Plus. Because there was no stages in this game where you had to worry about being passively damaged when you do moves you can't control. And that's why this end fight as Catwoman is the hardest fight in the game, probably. Because it's just ridiculous. And you might be wondering, Quith, with a Q and a W, what do you do? How do you fight this as I'm slowly but surely taking out these people and it's taking forever? You have to be fast. And it's not really up to you. Skill will dictate how quickly and the threats you prioritize. So the people you choose to attack and how you go between them. Like if you're not good at getting criticals, you're going to have a tougher time. If you're a button masher on these games, you're going to have a really tough time. Because you need to build your combo quickly and you need to kill people quickly. But those 2 randomly travelling lasers I mentioned, if you go to attack somebody and you don't have your camera on them and you jump across to them and you touch the laser, it's going to kill your combo. Every time your combo gets killed in this fight coming up, it makes it harder. Because the longer you take to kill these enemies, the harder the environment gets. And I would go as far as to say, if you drop your combo, restart. Because you're going to have a much tougher time. You don't need to, but trust me when I say this, if you keep getting touched, if you get hit by the people, hit by the floor, hit by anything, like a good one is, when you go to attack somebody, and Catwoman goes past the person you wanted to the guy on the opposite side of the, behind him, of the arena, who stood in the electricity, and you stand in it to attack them, and it kills your combo. And then when you try and press an attack to get out of it, you do that super short range punch because you've got no momentum. So you're still getting electrocuted. It's wonderful. And what will happen, guys, is if you haven't got rid of enough people quick enough and the arena shrinks, you're going to be on 4 squares unable to move. And at that point, there's nothing you can really do except for, you know, get a couple of hits in, maybe get a takedown and counter. Like, there are times, the first time I beat this section, I countered. And I countered a lot because that's all I could really do. And I have video footage of me doing the counters in the square when it's got to the point where I really can't move. And then I'll do a counter, and then Catwoman will dive behind the guy to do some fancy move, and I'll die because I get electrocuted. And it happens a lot. And to give you an example of the difficulty of this final fight, when I was recording, I think I died like 6 or 7 times. And I wasn't going for no damage, because I didn't think I could do it. Because of just how not fun this sequence coming up is. So I was just hoping to record a run where I got through it. And then I ended up getting the run that you're going to watch. And that's when I realised, you know, a lot about the fight was to do with the speed of it. And I think using takedowns kills people quickly, but I think just being mobile and hitting as many dudes as you can helps as well. Like, if Catwoman had upgrades so that her items, when you did the quickfire moves, actually did special moves. For instance, you know, if you could do the bowler and it killed 3 robots, you could probably just build your combo and use the gadgets, because the gadgets are faster than the takedowns. And I think that you'd have a lot of success with that. But that's just not how it works. Doesn't benefit you at all, it seems. And you might be thinking, well, if the takedowns are guaranteed kill, wouldn't it just be better to, you know, try and kill people? Because believe it or not, these robots take a beating. You can counter them 5 or 6 times before you kill them. Sometimes more. Like, the amount of damage it does to them is kind of silly. Like, one of the moves I like to do is the whip, because it pulls them in half and it stuns them, and it takes them a while to reassemble. But right now there's a little puzzle. It's left, farthest right, left again, and then inner right. Pretty simple stuff, and it's going to lead to an elevator, which is going to lead to a fight, and then it's going to lead to this one I've been talking about. But I have never died that much outside of a harder difficulty. Like, this fight's killed me more than any fight in any Arkham game on normal, because normally I don't die on normal. But this one, I died like 5 or 6 times. And it doesn't sound like much if you've, you know, died a million times on Evil Within or something, but it still means something, you know? And this is what everybody plays. And I'm somebody I've beaten all the games on all the harder difficulties. You know, I've done all the collectibles in them and things like that. I've done all the VR challenges with the highest scores, you know, the 3-star scores on all the games in the series. And it's killing me. And I feel like there's not much I can control, and I feel like when I'm dying I'm getting robbed a lot. So what happens to the person who's just picked the game up, you know, who hasn't got a big investment in the series or a lot of expertise in the game, and he comes along and plays? I imagine this DLC is probably very frustrating and not very fun. And the worst part is, it's not really your fault, because it's the environment that's hurting you when you're trying to do things and then the game is doing something different. And does that mean that this can't be done and done convincingly? No. It just means that it would have been way more fun if it wasn't this way. Like, why isn't it bigger? You know, why does it have to get so small? Why is it not just the outer area? Or why not have just more of those lasers? Anything but what this is. And you can get hurt during an animation when you're coming out of it before you've had a chance to dodge. You know, it's really bad. But camera control, awareness, and quickness is everything here. You need to kill them as quick as you can. If you can get an opportunity to do a triple counter, you're laughing. But you need to be aware of where the green tiles show up at first and where they escalate, and of course stuff like that. I didn't get touched then because I was in the countering animation. If I was still there at the end of it and I didn't dodge, I would have been hit. If you double tap A and you do the jump, you will get iframe. So you can iframe through that laser, but you cannot iframe through the floor, it seems. Because you're always going to have a moment where you're in contact. And the more times I've been damaged here, or took damage from trying to hit somebody and standing on one of those tiles because of just how far the animation took me, is kind of obnoxious. But you see that? Your fight's probably not going to look like that, guys. Do you know why? Because mine didn't. The fight before this was a fucking mess. It was an absolute horror show of about 10 guys and me not being able to move. Yet, you watch that and you think, wow, that looks easy. It really isn't, though. But it just goes to show, if you're fast, if you're lucky, you can dominate it. But that is not the typical way that fight happens at all. And that is why I think this is the worst DLC so far, and that is the worst fight in the game. Straight up. Really, really disappointed with this particular piece of DLC. The good news is the Robin one was much better for me. I enjoyed it a lot more. It's just a shame that like the first two areas I really liked. The first fight is a fun one. And then there's that one which is just... Who designed that? I don't get it. If you're watching this video and you worked for Rocksteady or whoever designed that and you know, please tell me, dude. Because I'm really curious. Why do you hate the people who bought your game?